Hi there, I'm Suzanne Johnson. I'm from Mrs Johnson's Emporium, and we've been supporting Blackpool Victoria in producing poppies this year. We've written a little easy pattern for everybody to be able to do, and here we've got a couple of poppies that are knitted to this pattern. A huge one here that was knitted in, I think it was super chunky, so don't worry about the size, but you can see it's got 3 petals and we've put a button in the middle, so that's really easy to make. It's made up, actually, what you actually knit is a piece of material like this. These are the 3 petals, yeah? So I'm going to teach you to knit along there now. Okay, so we're going to do a cast on. To knit this poppy normally you can use double knitting wool, which is the most common, the most popular wool, red of course, any red, and 4mm needles. And we're going to use the thumb method. There are lots of different methods to cast on. You use whichever one you want to. If you haven't cast on before, have a look at this one. So the thumb method is hold your yarn and your knitting needle in your right hand, as long as you're right-handed, and wrap your thumb forward and under your yarn, and you've got a wrap of yarn round your thumb. Put your needle through underneath your thumb, and then wrap the yarn you've got in your hand round your knit pin, round your needle. And then you can see here you've got that you've wrapped around your needle underneath. Just pull it through, and there you've got your first stitch. Next one, your thumb forward and under. You've got your needle there. Pop it through that wrap round your thumb underneath. Wrap your yarn round your needle, and you can see what you've wrapped round. It's just there. Pull it through the hole you've made in the yarn round your thumb. So forward and under, needle through, yarn round, and you can see it there. Pull it through the hole you've made with your thumb. And for a gentleman's poppy, because a gentleman doesn't want to look like Ken Dodd with a big poppy on his chest, does he? He wants a smaller one. So we're only going to do 6 stitches. So yeah, again, thumb round, needle through, yarn round your needle, and then pull that through the hole you've made with your thumb. Last one. Okay, and now we should have 6 stitches on your needle. So put that needle in your other hand, and we're going to start knitting. So that needle becomes like the thumb you've just been knitting on. You've got a stitch there, and you're going to pop your empty needle in your right hand through that stitch. And then, being very careful, because we've got 2 bits of yarn here, one has no wool on the end of it, and the other goes right to my ball of wool. I definitely want to be knitting with that one. So wrap that round your needle, and again you can see your bit that you've wrapped round there, pull it back through that stitch. So through the stitch, round your needle, and you can see it, just pull it back through. Through your stitch, round your needle, back through. So I've knitted my first row there, and you're just going to carry on knitting like that, swapping the needle with your stitches into your other hand, your left hand, and starting knitting on the empty needle. So carrying on knitting like that. I've got one I did earlier, just with a few rows on there. I don't know how many rows on there, but in the pattern it tells you to knit until it measures 6 centimetres. So here we've got our 6 centimetres. Let's have a look at doing this indent so that we can make, we can finish that off as a poppy, and as one petal, sorry, and start your next petal. So now we're going to do cast-offs to cast off, there are loads of different ways of casting off, all good. The one I use, I think it's called the Russian cast off. We're going to take our first 2 stitches and put a needle through from the right hand side through both stitches. Yeah, so it's through both of those stitches. I'm going to wrap my wool round and pull it back through both of those stitches and pull those stitches off the needle. So from having 2 stitches, I've now only got 1. So you can see I've cast off 1 stitch. If I hook that stitch back over my left hand needle and then put my right hand needle through the next stitch, so that again I've got 2 stitches, I can wrap my wool round and pull it back through, and I've cast off another stitch. So if we hook that stitch back over the needle, through, put a needle through the 2 stitches, we've got 2 stitches again, wool round, back through, and we've now got 1 and 2. 1 needle on a right, 1 stitch on a right hand needle, 2 stitches on a left hand. If we just do the same thing once more, hook it over, through the next stitch, and needle wrap, wool round and pull it back through. We've now just got the 2 stitches, and actually it said to cast off 4 stitches and then have 2 stitches knit. I knit the last stitch, and that's done that. That's cast off, and you see on there it's cast off the 4 stitches, and we've just got the 2 stitches on there that we've knit. Okay, so that's the first bit. That's finished our first petal. To cast stitches back on so that we can come up here and start knitting the next petal. Okay, so needle through in between the 2 stitches, wrap your wool round, and then pull what you've wrapped round through. Now if you put that needle in front of the other needle, you can reverse onto your left, the needle in your left hand, and then pull it. Not too tight, because we're still going to use that. So needle through in between the stitch you've just put on and the stitch next to it, underneath there, wrap your wool round, and then pull that wrap through and reverse onto that knitting needle. Needle through, and this is called the cable method or the 2 needle method. Wrap your wool round, pull your wool through, and then reverse onto that knitting needle. How many have we got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So your wool through, wrap your wool round, and then reverse onto there. So we're back up to 6 stitches, and you can see we've started our second petal. So now you can just start knitting, wool round, pull it through, pull it off your needle, through the stitch, wool round, pull it through and off your needle, through the stitch, wool round, pull it through and off your needle. So here we are. This is one I made earlier. You can see I've knitted my first petal, I've cast off 4, knit the 2 and then cast back on. Second petal, cast off 4, knit the 2 and cast back on, and I've knitted my third petal. I'm now just going to finally cast off. Let me just empty another needle. And this is a thicker one. It's to make for demonstration. We just wanted a bigger one. So I'm just going to cast off in the same way that we've been casting the 4 stitches off. So through the 2 stitches, wrap my wool round and pull it through. Hook it back over. And then through the next stitch, so I've got 2 stitches on again, wrap my wool round. So through the 2, wrap my wool round through and then pull it off. And I'll just cast off all the stitches. Yeah.
It's like you'd hold a knife.
Cast off all the stitches, and then I've finally just got one stitch on the end. Now, in order for that not to unravel, if I take my needle out, and I can pull that as big as I like now, but all I need to do is put the yarn through, including the ball. If it's got a ball on the end of it, you can pull that as big as you like. Put the ball through, but you're going to have to cut it off anyway. So there I've got my 3 petals and 2 bits of yarn on the end, all ready to sew up. Big but blunt needle to sew your knitting up. Okay, so look at that needle, huge one that, isn't it? No messing about threading that one. And to make it easier to thread, a lot of people struggle threading needles now. If you just run your needle underneath a fold in the yarn, you get a little bobbin like that sticking through your fingers, and you can just put your needle over it, and it's easier than trying to get those ends through the eye of the needle. So here we go. I'm just going to sew the 2 ends together, but not all the way along, just that much, just like the other petals, so that it's attached just as much as the other petals. So just a couple of stitches really. I've got 3 stitches there, back through, so I've put 3 stitches on there. Let me pull the end out of here. And then if you just thread this yarn right through all your stitches, so you can hardly see it, right through, and then you can put it off. There we go. And so that's sewn together. Now the other bit of yarn, as long as it's long enough, and if it isn't, if you've cut it off a bit short, just use another bit of the same coloured yarn. We're going to thread it through, so we're threading it through this bit, the bit where all the petals are attached, yeah? And if you thread it through, you can get it threaded through those stitches right at the end. You can see my needle just going through the loops of those stitches, and all the way round, and then you can just gather it in, and it becomes the poppy, all ready for a button to be sewn on it. And we wanted this to be a really easy pattern so that people can learn doing it, so that people can natter while they're knitting poppies, watch telly, so that people can do it in old folks' homes, scout troops. I can't think of anybody who can't just make a poppy. You can see it's already started to gather, hasn't it? But if I pull it tight, it starts becoming like the poppies I showed you earlier. Pull it tight, and then
you just do your normal 3 chain.
How is the?
And then you do your 3 treble.
I'll just, where it's coming out there, and I've pulled it tight, I'm going to just catch the other side and over sew it so that it can't come undone, and it'll retain its poppy shape. And there we go. Now, you could cut this tail off, but actually it'll come in quite handy to sew our button onto. And how fabulous is that? All right. Yeah, get cracking.
Well, I've been knitting since I were about 8. First learnt at school, of course, and then just picked it up and did it whenever I felt like it, you know. So this is just, well, it's quite easy, and they're soon done. You know, you can do one in a few minutes, have a cup of tea and make another one. You know, it's simple.
And I picked up the rest during
I've been knitting around about the same time, and I was taught by a lady who had a wool shop up the road where I lived. Also, we learnt at school. But didn't knit for a long time, then came back to knit. I also find it very relaxing, very therapeutic.
it's just
when
the
I follow a
combination
pattern.
you do.
Sorry, having said that, I've had a problem with it. Knit is something that didn't follow the pattern, so it went wrong. But these are very easy to knit, and you can pick them up, put them down, do as many as you want, or leave them for a little while and then go back to them.
Yeah, you use the magic circle.
I've only been knitting a few years. I know my grandmother must have taught me when I was young, but I can't remember it. But the motor memory came back to me, and when I started trying again, and I just started knitting when I inherited a wool shop, and I've never looked back. Yeah.
By doing anything at all that keeps the youngsters in the know, you know. We all remember it. We remember it from being children.
Although we're a lot younger than we look.
Oh yeah, yeah. Only just remember it. But at the same time, it'd be nice for the children to have something to keep reminding them, because they easily forget.
Yeah, and we don't want another.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
I think also, you know, they sort of tended to forget about the wars at one point, and they bringing it back now as the 1480 war and commemorating it. It's making the children a lot more receptive to the history.
So we've taped a video. We've got made patterns available for you, so you can crack on and knit some poppies. Feel free to come and join a group like this. Our group, this group, is at Mrs Johnson's Emporium from 1 till 3 on Tuesday afternoons. It's £1, and you get a tea and a coffee and so much natter. You'll be glad of a bit of peace and quiet when you go home. But there are knitting groups all over the Fylde coast, often in libraries, often in community centres, but there are some in pubs and cafes. So find out where they are near you and join us.